In Deathworlders brought their pets to school. Chaos erupts when a hamster escapes its containment, racing toward a terrifying snake's terrarium. Against all expectations, Terra's cat Pancake leaps over 3 security fields, positioning himself protectively between prey and predator. The snake freezes for 4.7 seconds before retreating, a silent understanding passing between Earth predators that shatters galactic assumptions about predator-prey dynamics forever. Silb floated through the holographic hall of the Galactic Alliance Academy, all 3 of their hearts beating in mild anticipation. The translucent membranes of their gas exchange spiracles fluttered as they absorbed the rich mixture of educational pheromones designed to enhance cognitive function. As a xenobiology student in their 4th cycle, Silb had grown accustomed to the diverse ecosystem of the Academy, home to students from 157 distinct species across the known universe. Terminal 447b indicates a 94% probability of precipitation in the artificial Earth biome today, announced the Academy's ambient intelligence system. All photosynthetic species are advised to schedule additional light therapy sessions. Silb acknowledged the announcement with a gentle pulse of their bioluminescent nodes, a habit they had developed despite knowing the system couldn't interpret such responses. They continued drifting toward the multisensory cafeteria, where they were scheduled to meet their study cluster. The Academy represented the pinnacle of interspecies education, established 742 cycles ago after the Great Unification. Its curved, adaptive architecture housed everything from methane swamps for the Venusian delegates to gravitational anomaly chambers for the Jupiterians. The cafeteria itself was a marvel of engineering, with 17 distinct atmospheric zones, temperature gradients ranging from absolute zero to plasma state, and nutrient delivery systems tailored to every conceivable biological need. As Silb approached their usual spot in the neutral density zone, they noticed an unusual flicker in the holographic menus suspended above each table. A message was propagating across the network. Attention all students. Principal Zorbnax requests your presence for an important announcement in the central auditorium at the conclusion of the current nutrition cycle. Silb's curiosity piqued. Announcements from Principal Zorbnax were rare and typically involved significant policy changes or security protocols. The last such announcement had introduced the controversial Shared Consciousness Ethics course after the infamous telepathic boundary violations of Cycle 738. "What do you suppose it's about?" asked Quivix, Silb's xenobiology professor, who had just materialized beside them. The professor's crystalline form refracted the ambient light into a pattern that Silb had learned to recognize as concern. "Unknown," Silb responded, their voice modulator adjusting to Quivix's preferred frequency range. Though the pattern of previous announcements suggests a 68% probability of curricular modification. "Perhaps," Quivix hummed, the vibration causing small fragments of their crystalline structure to resonate. "I have heard rumors from the faculty quantum link about—" "Well, let's not speculate. We'll know soon enough." Silb respected Quivix deeply. The professor had been among the first to recognize Silb's unusual aptitude for cross-species empathic reasoning, a rare trait among the typically analytical members of Silb's species. It was this trait that had fueled Silb's fascination with humans, despite never having encountered one personally. Humans, or Deathworlders, as they were often called in hushed tones throughout the Academy, had only joined the Galactic Alliance 23 cycles ago. Their homeworld, classified as a death-type environment due to its extreme conditions, had produced a species that many non-terrestrial beings found simultaneously fascinating and terrifying. The cafeteria began to empty as students of all forms migrated toward the central auditorium. Silb joined the flow, observing the diverse locomotion methods around them. Some rolled, others slithered, many flew, and a few teleported in controlled bursts. The Academy's corridors were designed to accommodate all, with anti-gravity channels, friction-adjusted surfaces, and psychic guidance beacons. Inside the auditorium, species self-organized by sensory preference. Silb chose a position near the mid-level pressure zone, where they could observe without being overwhelmed by the density of information exchange. The principal's dais at the center was equipped with multidimensional projection capabilities, allowing Zorbnax to be seen, heard, felt, smelled, or otherwise sensed by every species present. Principal Zorbnax, a massive gelatinous entity with 7 specialized cognitive nodes, oozed onto the platform. Their central communication appendage extended upward, quivering slightly, before emitting a harmonized frequency that activated all translation devices. Esteemed students and faculty of the Galactic Alliance Academy, Zorbnax began. Their words simultaneously converted into 157 languages, thought patterns, and chemical signatures. I am pleased to announce a new cultural exchange initiative designed to foster deeper understanding between our diverse populations. A wave of anticipatory chemicals wafted through the auditorium. In accordance with Galactic Alliance Directive 12X7 regarding cultural inclusivity, and after extensive consultation with the Board of Interspecies Relations, I am authorizing the first-ever Companion Species Cultural Exchange Day. Silb detected a subtle shift in the atmospheric composition as several gaseous species released stress indicators. Specifically, Zorbnax continued, their surface rippling with formal patterns. Our Terran students have been granted permission to bring their pets to the Academy for 1 full cycle. This unprecedented opportunity will allow all of us to better understand this unique aspect of human culture. The auditorium erupted in a chaos of reactions. The Valyrians began spinning in their anxiety spirals, releasing clouds of confusion spores. The floor-dwelling florps started melting into panic puddles. Even the typically unflappable mechanoids exhibited signs of distress, their optical sensors flashing in emergency patterns as they computed risk assessments. "Pets," whispered a Martian sulfur breather to Silb's right. "They're bringing their captive death beasts here?" "I heard they keep miniature predators in their sleeping quarters," hissed another student, their exoskeleton clicking in agitation. Silb remained outwardly calm, though their tertiary heart had accelerated to emergency pumping rates. They had studied human cultural practices extensively and understood that what humans called pets were actually domesticated animals from their homeworld, creatures that had evolved alongside humans in Earth's brutal conditions. These creatures, according to xenobiological texts, served no practical purpose in modern human society. They weren't used for nutrition, labor, or cognitive enhancement. Humans simply kept them, cared for them, developed emotional attachments to them. The concept was so alien to most galactic species that it had become one of the most studied aspects of human behavior. "I assure you," Principal Zorbnax's voice cut through the growing commotion, "that all necessary safety precautions will be implemented. Force fields, emergency containment protocols, and a full medical team will be standing by. This event has been approved by the Galactic Safety Commission with a Class 3 risk assessment, the same level assigned to our annual Psychic Arts Showcase." This did little to calm the audience. Class 3 risk assessments still allowed for minor localized atmospheric disruption and temporary sensory overload. Furthermore, Zorbnax added, participation is entirely voluntary. Students who wish to observe from a distance may do so via our secure holographic feeds. The event will take place 3 cycles from now, allowing ample time for preparation. As the announcement concluded, Silb found themselves torn between instinctive apprehension and scientific curiosity. The opportunity to observe Earth fauna in person was unprecedented, a potential breakthrough for their research into evolutionary adaptation in hostile environments. This is either going to be the most enlightening cultural exchange in Academy history, Professor Quivix vibrated beside them, or the most disastrous. Either way, I suggest you prepare your recording apparatus. Silb, this will certainly be worth documenting. Silb pulsed in agreement, already planning how to optimize their sensory receptors for the event. Despite the fear rippling through the auditorium, they felt something else, a third heart flutter of excitement. The following cycle in the cafeteria was dominated by heated discussions about the upcoming event. Silb observed from their usual spot, analyzing the collective reaction patterns. "Did you see the briefing document?" asked a Neptunian ice former, their crystalline appendages vibrating in distress. "They're bringing mammals. Mammals! Do you know what that means? Internal temperature regulation, hair, unpredictable emotional responses." "I've requested a transfer to the orbital campus for the day," replied their companion, a sentient gas cloud contained within a mobility sphere. "My species hasn't evolved to handle the stress of being in proximity to predator species." At a nearby table, Tara Jackson, one of the few human students, was attempting to reassure a group of concerned non-terrestrials. Her expressive face, so bizarre with its fixed features and limited color-changing abilities, displayed what Silb recognized as patience. "Look, I promise Pancake is completely harmless," Tara was saying, projecting a holographic image from her communicator. "He's just a regular house cat." Silb drifted closer, curiosity overriding caution. The hologram showed a small quadrupedal creature with fur, pointed ears, and reflective eyes. According to Silb's xenobiology studies, this was Felis catus, a carnivorous predator species that humans had selectively bred for companionship. "But it has killing appendages," protested a silicon-based student, pointing at the creature's paws. "And those are clearly sensory organs optimized for hunting in low light." "Well, yes, technically," Tara admitted. "But Pancake spends most of his time sleeping and asking for treats. The most dangerous thing he does is occasionally knock things off shelves." "Why?" asked Silb, speaking directly to a human for the first time. "What evolutionary advantage does shelf clearing provide?" Tara looked up, seeming pleased at Silb's interest. "None at all. He just does it because he's a cat. They do things that don't make sense sometimes. That's part of why we love them." The concept of loving a non-sapient species was another human peculiarity that fascinated Silb. Their own species reproduced through atmospheric particle exchange and had no concept of familial bonds or non-utilitarian relationships. "Will you be bringing this Pancake to the cultural exchange?" Silb inquired, their vocalization unit carefully pronouncing the unusual name. "Absolutely," Tara beamed, displaying the flat teeth that humans used in non-threatening social displays. "He's super friendly. Would you like to meet him?" Before Silb could respond, an emergency alert pulsed through the cafeteria's communication network. "Attention, all non-terrestrial students. Emergency meeting in Lecture Hall 7G regarding the upcoming pet event. Attendance strongly advised." "That doesn't sound good," Tara sighed. "Look, if you have questions about Pancake or any Earth animals, my communication channel is always open. We're not trying to scare anyone. This is important to us, and we just want to share it with you all." Silb pulsed acknowledgement and drifted toward Lecture Hall 7G, processing this interaction. The human had displayed none of the aggression or dominance behaviors that evolutionary theory would predict from a Deathworld species. Instead, she had shown eagerness to connect, to share. This required further analysis. The lecture hall was packed with agitated students from across the spectrum of non-terrestrial life. Professor Quivix hovered at the front, their crystalline form pulsing with calming light patterns. "Order, please," Quivix resonated. "This meeting has been called to address your concerns about the upcoming cultural exchange." "Concerns?" burst out a Jupiterian gas giant, their massive form compressing in agitation. "This is about survival. Humans are bringing predators into our educational sanctuary." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. "The Academy Charter guarantees our right to a safe learning environment. added a collective intelligence composed of 17 synchronized microorganisms. This event violates that guarantee. Professor Quivix waited for the commotion to settle. Your concerns are valid and have been registered with the administration. However, I must remind you that the Galactic Alliance Sentient Rights Act requires us to make reasonable accommodations for the cultural practices of all member species, including humans. But their cultural practices involve cohabitating with killers, protested a photosynthetic student, their leaf-like appendages trembling. Perhaps, suggested a mechanical student with logical processing circuits. We could petition for alternative academic credit. Those who feel unsafe could complete a research assignment about Earth fauna instead of attending. Professor Quivix's crystalline form brightened. An excellent suggestion. I will present this option to Principal Zorbnax immediately. And what about those of us who wish to participate? Silb asked, surprising themselves with their own boldness. All sensory apparatuses in the room turned toward them. You want to go? Asked the Jupiterian incredulously. As xenobiology students, are we not obligated to study diverse life forms firsthand? Silb reasoned, their bioluminescent nodes pulsing with scholarly enthusiasm. This represents an unprecedented research opportunity. A tense discussion followed, culminating in a consensus. Those who wished to avoid the event could complete Professor Quivix's alternative assignment, while those brave or curious enough to attend would document their observations for the benefit of all. When the final tally was processed, only 23% of non-terrestrial students had registered to attend the cultural exchange. Silb was among them, having committed to a comprehensive sensory recording for their xenobiology thesis. As they exited the lecture hall, Professor Quivix approached. Your decision shows remarkable adaptability. Silb, not many would choose knowledge over comfort. Comfort is temporary, Silb responded. Understanding is permanent. Indeed, Quivix hummed thoughtfully. Just maintain your emergency teleportation beacon at full charge. Yes? Some knowledge comes at a higher price than others. The day of the cultural exchange arrived with an atmosphere of tension throughout the academy. Security protocols had been upgraded to unprecedented levels. Temporary force fields had been installed to create species-safe zones. Emergency medical response units were stationed at strategic intervals, and the entire facility's atmospheric composition was being continuously monitored for stress pheromones. Silb had spent the previous cycle optimizing their sensory receptors and double-checking their recording equipment. They had also, somewhat inexplicably, adjusted their outer membrane to display a more appealing pattern of bioluminescence. They told themselves this was merely to appear non-threatening to the Earth fauna. But their tertiary heart pulsed with an emotion closer to excitement than scientific detachment. The designated gathering area was the Academy's largest open space, the adaptive environment arena, normally used for xenophysical education. It had been reconfigured to accommodate both the human students and their companions, with specialized zones labeled in multiple languages and sensory indicators: canine area, feline area, reptile section, aquatic life, and most alarmingly, arachnid corner. Silb positioned themselves near an observation platform, their gas exchange spiracles fluttering rapidly as they absorbed the unusual mixture of scents flooding the arena. Earth biochemistry was notoriously complex, producing organic compounds found nowhere else in the known galaxy. The first humans began to arrive, each accompanied by creatures that defied Silb's expectations despite their extensive research. The diversity was staggering, from tiny vibrating balls of fur to scaled reptilians with flickering tongues, from graceful four-legged predators to fish suspended in portable water environments. Tara Jackson entered with a small carrier, spotting Silb immediately and waving with characteristic human enthusiasm. "You came! I'm so glad! Are you ready to meet Pancake?" Silb pulsed affirmatively, their scientific curiosity momentarily overwhelming their ingrained caution. Tara set down the carrier and opened its front panel. A moment later, a creature emerged that matched the holographic image Sylb had seen, but somehow seemed infinitely more present. The cat stepped out cautiously. Its sensory appendages, ears, Sylb reminded themselves, swiveling to capture the cacophony of sounds in the arena. "He's a bit nervous with all the new smells," Terra explained, kneeling beside the creature. "Pancake, this is Sylb. They're a friend." Sylb wasn't entirely sure about the designation friend, but found themselves oddly pleased by it nonetheless. They lowered their floating form slightly, extending a sensory tendril toward the cat at what they calculated to be a non-threatening distance. The cat, Pancake, stretched his neck forward, pink nose twitching as he detected Sylb's unique biochemical signature. Then, to Sylb's astonishment, the creature made a vibrating sound and moved closer. "He's purring," Terra exclaimed. "He likes you." "Purring?" Sylb inquired, fascinated by the acoustic phenomenon. "This is a communication signal?" "Sort of. It usually means he's happy or comfortable. Would you like to touch him? He loves being petted." Before Sylb could process the unusual request, Pancake made the decision for them. The cat stepped forward and brushed against Sylb's lowest sensory tendril. The sensation was unlike anything Sylb had experienced: warm, soft, and somehow reassuring. Their bioluminescence flickered in surprise, and all three hearts synchronized momentarily. "Oh, wow, you're lighting up," Terra observed. "Is that normal? Is it okay?" "It is. Unexpected," Sylb managed to respond, their voice modulator fluctuating slightly. "But not unpleasant." As Sylb cautiously extended their interaction with Pancake, they became aware of Principal Zorbnax approaching, accompanied by their administrative assistant Plick, a nervous, multi-limbed entity whose species specialized in risk assessment. Sylb," Principal Zorbnax acknowledged, their gelatinous form rippling formally. "I'm pleased to see you participating. Your xenobiology perspective will be valuable in our post-event analysis." "Thank you, Principal," Sylb responded, maintaining proper academic formality, despite the cat now rubbing insistently against their sensory tendrils. "The opportunity to study Earth fauna firsthand is most educational." "Indeed," Zorbnax replied, before lowering their voice module to a frequency just within Sylb's reception range. "However, I feel compelled to inform you that our security team has classified this event as a potential minor inconvenience situation." Sylb recognized the euphemism immediately. In Academy protocol, minor inconvenience was code for contained catastrophe, a designation that allowed for emergency measures without causing panic. "The control protocols appear to be functioning within acceptable parameters," Plick interjected, their limbs twitching as they constantly scanned the environment. "Though I must note that the unpredictability factor of these Earth creatures exceeds our standard modeling capabilities." As if to illustrate this point, a commotion erupted from the small mammals section across the arena. Sylb's enhanced perception detected increased stress indicators from multiple species simultaneously. "What's happening?" Terra asked, gathering Pancake protectively in her arms. Principal Zorbnax's surface rippled with concern patterns. "It appears one of the smaller Earth fauna has breached its containment field." Sylb focused their sensory array in that direction, quickly identifying the source of the disturbance. A spherical transparent containment ball had somehow been opened, and a tiny, furry creature, Sylb's database identified it as a hamster, was scurrying across the open floor toward the reptile section. "That's Aisha's hamster," Terra gasped. "It's heading straight for the snake area." Indeed, the diminutive mammal was racing directly toward a terrarium containing a massive constricting serpent that another human student had proudly introduced as Noodle earlier in the event. The snake, sensing movement, had raised its head in predatory attention. The arena erupted in chaos. Security drones activated, their force field generators humming to life. Several non-terrestrial students began emergency evacuation procedures, their biochemical panic responses triggering atmospheric contamination alerts. In the midst of this mounting disorder, something unexpected happened. Pancake suddenly tensed in Tara's arms, his attention locked on the escaping hamster and the alert predator. Before anyone could react, the cat leaped from Tara's grasp, sailed over 3 separate security fields with impossible grace, and positioned himself directly between the hamster and the snake's terrarium. The entire arena froze in collective shock. The security systems, programmed to respond to rapid movements, hesitated in their targeting protocols, unable to classify this new development. Pancake sat down, completely still except for the occasional twitch of his tail, creating a living barrier between prey and predator. The hamster, seeming to sense protection rather than a new threat, scurried behind the cat and remained there, trembling but safe. The snake, Noodle, remained motionless for precisely 4.7 seconds, a detail Sylb's recording equipment would later confirm, before slowly retreating to the far corner of its habitat, clearly recognizing the silent message in the cat's posture. Did Pancake just protect the hamster? Plick asked, their risk assessment algorithms clearly struggling with this development. It appears so, Tara replied softly, seeming unsurprised yet proud. He's never hurt smaller animals at home either. He watches over them. Principal Zorbnax's surface displayed the ripple pattern Sylb recognized as deep contemplation. This contradicts our understanding of Terran predator-prey dynamics. Not really, Tara explained, moving carefully toward Pancake and the hamster. Domestic cats can have strong protective instincts, especially when they're well socialized. Pancake has grown up with all sorts of animals. He knows the difference between toys, food, and friends. As Tara gently collected both the cat and hamster, returning the latter to its grateful human companion, Sylb experienced a profound shift in their perception. The binary classification of predator and prey that had dominated their understanding of Earth biology suddenly seemed woefully inadequate. However, this moment of interspecies harmony proved short-lived. In another section of the arena, a large canine, Brutus, a Bernese mountain dog, according to Sylb's rapidly updating database, had become excited by the commotion and bounded over to investigate the hamster situation, his enthusiastic barking triggering the mechanoid's defensive protocols. Warning lights flashed as the mechanoids initiated their emergency response, firing neutralizing foam in a wide arc that unfortunately struck an aquatic habitat. The resulting chemical reaction released a cloud of pink gas that, while harmless, triggered the atmospheric contamination sensors. Minor inconvenience protocol activated, announced the Academy's ambient intelligence system, its normally soothing tone replaced with urgency. Please proceed to your designated evacuation zones. The arena dissolved into controlled chaos. Force fields subdivided the space into containment sectors. Environmental purification systems activated with a high-pitched whine, and emergency transport beacons began to pulse rhythmically. In the confusion, Sylb found themselves separated from Tara and Pancake, swept along in a stream of fleeing students. Their scientific detachment wavered as all 3 hearts accelerated to emergency rates. Despite their advanced navigation capabilities, the rapidly reconfiguring environment disoriented their sense of direction. As Sylb searched for a familiar reference point, something soft brushed against their lowest appendage. Looking down, they discovered Pancake, somehow having escaped Tara's grasp again, rubbing his head against Sylb in what appeared to be a deliberate marking behavior. The cat looked up, meeting Sylb's sensory cluster with unblinking yellow eyes that somehow conveyed more intelligence than Sylb had been led to expect from a non-sapient species. Then, with a flick of his tail, Pancake turned and began walking purposefully toward an exit, occasionally looking back as if to ensure Sylb was following. Against all logical protocols, Silb followed. The cat led them through a service corridor that Silb's internal mapping system hadn't even registered, bypassing the main evacuation routes, clogged with panicking students. They emerged in a quiet observation dome, overlooking the Academy's central garden, far from the chaos of the arena. Tara was already there, looking relieved when she spotted them. "Pancake! There you are!" And Silb, "Oh, thank goodness. Are you okay?" "I am functioning within normal parameters," Silb responded automatically, though their bioluminescence patterns suggested otherwise. "Your Pancake appears to have guided me here deliberately." Tara smiled, kneeling to stroke the cat as he returned to her side. "He probably did. Cats are smarter than most people give them credit for, and they're good at finding quiet spots during chaos. This contradicts established xenobiological theory regarding non-sapient assistance behaviors," Silb noted, settling into a hovering position beside Tara. "Earth fauna are not supposed to demonstrate cross-species altruism without direct benefit." "Maybe your theories need updating," Tara suggested gently. "Or maybe there was a benefit you don't understand yet." As they sat in the relative calm of the observation dome, watching the distant emergency lights flash across the Academy complex, Silb found themselves processing the events of the day in ways their scientific training hadn't prepared them for. The emotional impact of being rescued by an Earth predator was significant. "I believe," Silb said after a long silence, "that I have acquired substantial new data for my xenobiology thesis." Tara laughed. "That strange, rhythmic vocalization humans use to express amusement. Is that your way of saying you made a friend today?" Silb's bioluminescence pulsed in patterns that, had Tara been able to interpret them, would have indicated both confusion and acceptance. "Perhaps, though I suspect the Galactic Alliance may need to reconsider its classification of pets altogether." Pancake, seemingly satisfied with his role in the day's events, curled into a perfect circle on Tara's lap and began to emit that curious, vibrating sound again, purring. Silb reminded themselves. The sound was oddly soothing to all three of Silb's hearts. "The Academy will undoubtedly classify today's events as a security incident," Silb noted. "Regulations were breached, protocols violated, atmospheric contamination recorded." "True," Tara admitted, stroking Pancake gently. "But nobody got hurt, right? And maybe some good came from it too. Understanding, connection. Isn't that what the Academy is supposed to be about?" As the emergency lights gradually dimmed and the all-clear signals began to pulse through the communication network, Silb found themselves hoping, quite irrationally, that this would not be the last minor inconvenience they would experience in the company of Tara Jackson and her remarkable companion. 78 cycles later, Ambassador Exiel, formerly known as Student Silb, stood before the Galactic Alliance Council, their formal diplomatic membrane shimmering with the precise, bioluminescent patterns, indicating highest authority and respect. Esteemed representatives of the 157 recognized sentient species, Exile began, their voice modulator adjusted to the ceremonial frequency. "I come before you today to propose the formalization of the Interspecies Companion Exchange Program." The Grand Chamber of the Council, with its adaptive environments, carefully calibrated for each delegation, hummed with interest. The incident at the Galactic Alliance Academy, now famously known as the Pet Event in diplomatic circles, had become something of a legend, though often exaggerated in the telling. "Ambassador Exile," acknowledged the Arcturian chair being, their tentacles arranged in the formal pattern of recognition. "The Council recognizes your unique perspective on this matter, given your personal involvement in the original, cultural misunderstanding." "Indeed, chair being," Exil responded. "What began as a minor inconvenience has evolved into one of our most successful cultural exchange programs, In the 78 cycles since that day, over 12,000 non-terrestrial students have participated in supervised interactions with Earth companion species. Exile's presentation continued with meticulous data on improved interspecies relations, enhanced xenobiological understanding, and even unexpected medical applications discovered through the study of human-animal bonds. Furthermore, Exile added, their middle heart warming at the memory, I submit my own experience as evidence. The bond I formed with a Terran feline named Pancake fundamentally altered my understanding of interspecies dynamics and ultimately led to my current diplomatic career. A ripple of amusement passed through the council at the mention of the now famous cat. Pancake had become something of a diplomatic celebrity, even appearing in educational materials throughout the Alliance. The Terran practice of forming emotional bonds with non-sapient species initially appeared illogical, perhaps even dangerous, to many of us. Exile continued. Yet it has proven to be one of humanity's most valuable contributions to our collective culture, a demonstration that relationships need not be based on utility, similarity, or even communication as we traditionally define it. As Exile concluded their presentation, the voting luminescence began to pulse across the chamber. One by one, representatives from each species registered their positions. When the final tally materialized in the center of the chamber, the result was clear. The Interspecies Companion Exchange Program would become a permanent feature of Alliance cultural policy. After the formal proceedings, Exile found themselves approached by a familiar crystalline form, Professor Quivix, now the Academy's Chancellor of Xenobiological Studies. Ambassador, Quivix hummed in greeting, their crystalline structure vibrating with pride. Your presentation was most effective. I found myself reflecting on that chaotic day when a small cat changed the course of interstellar diplomacy. Chancellor, Exile acknowledged warmly. Your guidance was instrumental in helping me process those events scientifically, rather than merely emotionally. Science and emotion are not always the opposing forces we once believed, Quivix responded, as your Terran friends have shown us. Speaking of Terran friends, a familiar figure approached, older now, but with the same enthusiastic stride. Tara Jackson had become the human ambassador to the Galactic Alliance, her diplomatic career launched by the very incident they were discussing. Look who I brought to witness your triumph, Tara said, opening a specialized carrier designed for senior feline comfort. Inside, a very elderly but still regal Pancake blinked slowly at Exile. Though cats were long-lived by Earth standards, the passage of 78 galactic cycles had taken its toll. Yet his yellow eyes remained bright and knowing. Exile lowered their form to the carrier's level, extending a sensory tendril toward their old friend. Pancake responded with a soft purr and a gentle headbutt against the tendril, the same greeting he had offered all those cycles ago. The veterinarians say this will likely be his last diplomatic appearance, Tara said softly. But he insisted on being here for this vote. Well, as much as cats insist on anything. Exile's bioluminescence dimmed respectfully. His contribution to galactic harmony has been immeasurable. Future generations will study the Pancake Doctrine of unexpected allies and protectors. As the three old friends moved toward the diplomatic reception area, Exile reflected on how a single day of chaos, hamsters escaping, snakes retreating, dogs barking, force fields failing, and pink gas billowing, had ultimately led to greater understanding throughout the Alliance. Fear, Exile had learned, could only be truly conquered through proximity and knowledge. Sometimes the most dangerous-looking creatures could become the most steadfast allies. And sometimes, the greatest diplomatic breakthroughs began with something as simple as a purr and a headbutt. In the grand history of the Galactic Alliance, the day that humans brought their pets to school would be remembered not as the catastrophe everyone had feared, but as the beginning of a new kind of interspecies understanding, one based not on utility or logic or even mutual comprehension, but on the simple, profound capacity for connection that transcended the boundaries of worlds and species alike. As if sensing these thoughts, Pancake gave one final, contented purr. The sound echoed through Exile's 3 hearts, a reminder that the universe contained far more possibilities for friendship than any xenobiology textbook could ever catalog. The end.